being an effective ambassador of light. In our last session, we said, among other actions, that our work and studies must not be seen as an unwelcome inconvenience to church ministry, but complementary because we will give an account to God. We also noted that the world system is generally diametrically opposed to God, and we need wise and effective strategies to navigate our world as ambassadors of Jesus Christ. Today's broadcast will unpack and expand on this a bit more, and then we would finish off with an illustration using Daniel as a case study very briefly. Let me kick off by saying this. We are God's representatives in our work, in our study, in the communities where we live, more than even in church. The truth is that we spend more time in the marketplace of work, of school, social media, with our friends than in church, and sometimes even with our own families. Therefore, God is clearly interested in how we project His kingdom values in these places. Before we move on to the case study example of Daniel, I want to introduce you to 3 novel but biblical principles about being God's ambassadors, which Jesus Christ taught us. I call these the GET principle, or the GET principle for short. The G stands for glimpse, the E stands for experience or encounter, and the T stands for taste. Now, let's find the Bible evidence for these 3 principles of projecting the values of God's heavenly kingdom in our everyday endeavors as His ambassadors. In these portions of the Bible, Jesus is teaching His followers about how the kingdom of heaven operates, and normally in a countercultural way. The G and the T can be found in Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 16, and this forms part of the famous Sermon on the Mount series. And it reads, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Then the E in GET or GET can be found in Matthew chapter 13, verse 33, which reads, "He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed it into it about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough." From these 2 portions of the Bible, we can summarize as follows. As light of the earth, we gave the world a glimpse of the heavenly kingdom. As yeast, we gave the world an experience or encounter with the heavenly kingdom or heavenly influence. And as salt of the earth, we gave the world a taste of God's heavenly kingdom. Light is not afraid of darkness and it seeks to overcome it. Yeast is not afraid of flour, but influences it and spreads through it quietly so that the dough rises and eventually bread can be made. Salt is not afraid of tasteless or food that is petrifying, but it seeks to season it and to preserve it. This is how God sees you and I. And the question is, do you see yourself that way, or you're timid and living below your potential? In the last broadcast, I mentioned that God's kingdom and heaven's rule do not operate on a smooth and easy road. His kingdom and heaven's prowess are displayed in the midst of people who do not accept him. Daniel was a typical example of someone who shined and influenced a culture that didn't acknowledge God. He was very spiritual and deeply religious and could have stayed in his holy bubble, but he came out of his shell. He stood and served in King Nebuchadnezzar's court and became a beacon of light for God. This is how he's described in Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 to 5. It pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them so that the king might not suffer loss. Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional or excellent qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. At this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men said, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God." So the question is this, and I'll finish off on this. How did he obtain such an excellent spirit or come to have such exceptional ability and qualities? These we can find their early development in Daniel chapter 1 verses 1 to 17, but I want to mention 4 things to finish off. Daniel had a sense of purpose. He knew what he was there to do and nothing distracted him. He was prayerful. He was a man of prayer that kept constant contact with God, which meant that he always had heaven's ideas and heaven's mindset and wisdom. He had a sense of perception. He could think deeply and bring out solutions, so the king suffered no loss. And because of that, he came to command so much power. I would like to call that influence. So Daniel had a sense of purpose. He was prayerful. He was a person or a man of perception, and he gained power and influence which he never abused. So to summarize, I would say of Daniel that all his faculties were developed to a high level, which made him to be able to excel and to exhibit such exceptional qualities. God richly bless you.